Welcome back to the Joyride. This is the Inferno FT model from Sharp Eye Surfboards, Filipe Toledo's two-time world title winning surfboard. Dang it! We were so close to nailing this. We filmed this Joyride before the 2023 WSL Finals, and while we were correct in assuming that Filipe would win, we did not foresee him riding the 77 model in the final. Unfortunately, that means the Inferno FT is not a two-time world title winning board, but it did win in 2022, and we expect it might win again. So just enjoy the rest of the Joyride, but watch it with a little grain of salt. So what makes this board special? It's actually an update of the Inferno 72 model, which previously won Stab in the Dark. And I'd also tested that board before and absolutely loved it. The main difference is this board has just a quad fin setup. So 4 fins. I'm not super used to riding quads, but the idea here is to basically create as much speed, control, and release as possible. Speed comes from water rushing through the middle of these fins. Control comes from having 2 fins on the rail, which allows you to really hold in. And the release is because you don't have this center pivot right here, so if you really want to push the tail, you can basically get the board sliding a bit more. We've obviously seen Filipe ripping on this board at lowers and beyond. We're gonna try it out in a few different waves. We're gonna try a few different fin setups, and we're gonna see if we can make this board go about half as fast as he does. First session on the Inferno FT, done. We found an awesome peaky little beach break, waist to chest high, super playful, super fun, rights, lefts, anything you wanted out there, and this board just ate it up. From the first wave, I felt like a crazy amount of speed, just a little like boost that you get. Do one little shimmy off the bottom and the board's just going. Basically, the better the wave, the better this board went. I was just dying for like a wave to really stand up for me so I could lean into it, and I got 1 or 2 where I really felt like I could lock the rail in off the bottom and just held in the wave so well when it stood up like that. On smaller waves, it was a little bit trickier. There were a couple times where I'd go to do a cutback back into the whitewater, and it would start off good, but when the board flattened out, it would kind of get that little loose slidey feeling when it got off the rail. So it really felt like one of those waves that had a bit of steepness to them so that you could drive all the way through the turn on your rail and it held in. But that said, when you did have a section where you wanted to release a little bit, as soon as you get the board flat on the water, because it doesn't have that center fin, the tail will just go and slide anywhere you want, which is a really good feeling. Backside, I was definitely struggling a little bit. My backhand, I feel like it's more pivoty than it is drivey. And so when I tried to do those pivoty turns, either I would slide out or push a little too hard, or I'd skip on the bottom. So I need to kind of find the sweet spot going backside. But I was out there with my friend Sean, and he was also on the FT, and he was kind of flaring up on the left, so I think he took the lefts out for us. It was just like the most playful little ramps out there, and my make rate on this board was so much higher than normal. Typically I'll go out and I'll be lucky if I land like 1 out of 3 or 4 airs. Here I feel like I was landing everything that I tried. Even airs that I didn't want to land, I was landing. As far as the first session goes, this is like the best feeling board I've had in a really, really long time. So this session, I went with the pivot fins from Future's Legacy series and the small rears. And the reason I did that is because I knew we were surfing a beach break that wasn't super powerful, and it was really sort of like wedgy in short periods. So I wanted a fin that would allow me to turn really tight in the pocket. And this combination allowed me to get sort of like loose and slide around a little bit, which was really fun. Next time I go out, I might want to put in a fin that either has a little bit more rake or maybe a little bit of a bigger back fin so that it holds in a bit more and really allows me to go rail to rail even better. second session, suspicions are confirmed. This board is awesome. I had so much fun out there. Obviously, it was not typical long point breaky style lowers. It was more beach breaky, kind of like when Filipe won his title on this board actually, the first time. What I really love about this board is that it's skatey on smaller, weaker waves, so you can get speed and be loose in the pocket and kind of do what you want. And then it's drivey on bigger, more powerful waves, so you don't have to be afraid of skipping out. You can go off the bottom and push as hard as you want off the top. And I didn't even know that you could have those two things in the same board. Normally you have to choose one or the other, but the fact that you can basically transition from doing the biggest top turn of your life to then doing like a little power slide in the pocket of a tiny wave all on the same board without even having to think about it, it's like a dream come true. On lefts, I still had a little bit of trouble. There's just something unpredictable about it. It seemed to go better the harder that I pushed off the bottom, because the more that I had the board tilted on rail, the more that it grabbed in and the more I could rely on it. On the smaller waves, when my bottom turns were a little bit flatter, I could definitely feel myself sliding and I felt a little bit out of control. So I have a little bit of work to do there to figure that out. This session, I went with the Rasta quads. They're a little bit more raky than the pivot fins that I had in before, and the trailer fin here is a little bit bigger. So basically what we got out of these fins was a little bit more control and a little bit more of, a wider arcing turn. Whereas on the pivot fin, we were doing more in the pocket, tight, snappy turns. This one allowed me to really drive through, say like a roundhouse cutback and get all the way around without sliding out or anything. This year, Sharp Eye's actually providing boards to more than a third of the championship tour, and I think it makes a lot of sense. They've got something really special going on, and whatever sort of magic that they're putting into these things, it is absolutely palpable from like the highest level of surfer to your everyday surfer as well. So for that reason, I'm gonna go ahead and say it. The Inferno FT is a magic surfboard, and I think it makes a lot of sense how Filipe won 2 world titles on this board at this very wave. And the only thing that I want to do is test it in some real waves with a bit of punch. So I'm going to go try to find one more session with waves that are a little bit bigger, more powerful, and see if it can still stand up.
Overall, this board didn't really love bigger surf. There were definitely a few moments where it grabbed and it held in and it felt really nice, but a lot of the times I felt like I was holding on for dear life. Maybe a PU version would have been a little bit more stable, but then, of course, eventually I caught this last wave and decided to land exactly on the lip and crease the board, so that's all she wrote.